wonderful? Isn't that true? Everything is exposing who we are. Everything is growing us. Everything that we've gone through is led to the version of you right now. And that version isn't going to be the same version tomorrow or next week or next year, because we're growing, we're moving, we're growing into something I like to call New Jerusalem, where we are walking around as the Christ, where we truly are embodying that which is within us. And that's why we do this. That's why we come together, to learn how to do that. And it's not always all fun and games. Growth takes some effort sometimes. You're going to go through some things because you're going to have to let go of the past version. And if we bless everything, that's why it says the patterns of the pain. If I look at that, if I look at the patterns, it was always a moment where I was resisting change. The pain was the resistance. It wasn't what was going on. It was my resistance. It was my ideas about who I'm supposed to be and how things are supposed to look. But true acceptance is letting go of the resistance to change. And I think Palm Sunday is the ultimate example of someone not resisting change. And, he had no idea what was going to happen after Jerusalem. All he knew is that he had to show up. And that's all you have to know, is that you, for yourself, for your own growth, for your own exposing who you are inside, you have to go through that growth. And whatever Jerusalem is going to present to you. Now, we're not going into a city, but we're going into a state of consciousness, which I'll read about later on. The Bible calls New Jerusalem. But this is Palm Sunday, and it's the day Jesus came into the city of Jerusalem in recognition of his identity as the Christ. Instead of attempting to overcome the other egos, the occupation of the Roman Empire, which some folks thought he was going to do or should do, he taught us the lesson that we can overcome all earthly conditions, even the appearance of death. I'm going to read a little bit from A Course in Miracles, because it actually mentions Palm Sunday. In chapter 20, the vision of holiness, the Holy Week. The vision of holiness is getting clearer to me now. It's being magnified and multiplied. The vision of holiness. Holy Week. This is Palm Sunday, the celebration of victory and the acceptance of truth. Let us not spend this Holy Week brooding on the crucifixion of God's Son, but happily in the celebration of his release. For Easter is the sign of peace, not of pain. It's the sign of Christ, not of the ego. A slain Christ has no meaning, but a risen Christ becomes the symbol, get this, of the Son of God's forgiveness on himself. It's time to forgive ourselves. It's the sign he looks upon himself as healed and whole. A week is short, yet this Holy Week is the symbol of the whole journey the Son of God has undertaken. He started with the sign of victory and the promise of resurrection already given him. Let him not wander into the temptation of crucifixion and delay him there. Help him to go in peace beyond it, with the light of his own innocence lighting his way to redemption and release. Hold him not back with thorns and nails when his redemption is so near, but let the shining gift of lilies speed him on his way to resurrection. Now, what the Course is talking about is that there is a Christ in you. There is the holy child of God in you. And you are holding back that child of God in you every time you're focused on any form of crucifixion, any form of it's not supposed to be this way. But if you're looking like the song says, if you're celebrating the mud because it's growing the lotus, without the mud there's no lotus. Without an environment of spiritual progress, how am I going to come into the Christ being? I'm going to keep trying to perfect the ego and protect myself from that growth. Protect myself from that moment where I have to change, where I have to be a little more compassionate, where I have to forgive, where I have to put down my toys of separation. It doesn't matter who we think is right, who we think is wrong, what my ideas are versus your ideas. There is a light in you that the universe longs to behold. And you're holding that light back by focusing on the sacrifice or the crucifixion or any kind of negative thought that you might have. So when Jesus came to Jerusalem, he came not as an individual person, but he came fully embodying the Christ principle, the idea of Christ. In Unity, we say Christ is not a person, but a principle, an individual embodiment of a divine idea. God in you is the divine idea. It's a huge idea. It's the biggest idea there is, that God is in you. And so the embodiment of that idea is the Christ. Jesus came as the embodiment of God itself. Now, I read this from the Course. The celebration of victory is, and the acceptance of the truth is that the Christ dwells in me. You cannot kill the Christ. And as soon as he knew that, he wasn't afraid of the crucifixion. He wasn't afraid of what was going to happen in Jerusalem. He knew he had to show up. Because you can't kill the Christ. The Christ is principle. The Christ is your spiritual identity. No one can take that from you, no matter what happens in the form. No one can take that from you. That's so amazing about this story, is that it remains intact exactly to the, I won't say level, but level of your awareness, but I want to say it will remain at the level of your demonstration of it, no matter what happens in physical form. That's always temporary. But the Christ in you is eternal, and it will never, ever be bound by the limitations of this world. You are unlimited. You are unlimited. And so we're celebrating the release of the Christ that we've got inside us. We're releasing it now out into the world. Not afraid to release it because we know it cannot be crucified. What comes back to us is more love. I was born in love and for love, and it's my intention to bring more love into the world. That's why I have to keep saying that prayer every week. Because it's true. It's my intention to bring more love into the world. Now, Jesus overcame the limitations of the world not by avoiding his journey through Jerusalem. He wasn't afraid. Well, he was at one point. He was so afraid he was sweating blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. But that was the human that was afraid. The consciousness of the Christ was not afraid. And still, in that moment, they were together. And this is where you are now. The Christ and the human is together. Let it be that way. This is a journey. This is a climb. This is the fun part, is that as a human being, you get to be the Christ. Because spirit is spirit and doesn't need any definitions at all. But right here and now, as a human being, you get to choose. And it's amazing what you can experience and who you can be in this world. It's amazing. It never stops. The miracles that happen, the miracles that are going to happen through you. You can count the ones that are already happening. I can look around and see 3 or 4 resurrections sitting right here today. Yeah, there's the two heart attacks over here. Oh, man. Thank you so much, you guys. I need you in my life. If you came back for nobody else except me, it's enough. I need as many friends as I can get. And the same, it's the same story, with Jesus in the garden. All his friends fell asleep. So if anybody's awake, I'm happy. Even for a few minutes. I love it. I told Kathy, thank you so much for not dying. You want to know her response? She says, many people have told me that my death would have been an inconvenience to them. You guys are awesome. See, we're here laughing and joking about death because we understand and we experience the reality of resurrection. We understand and experience the reality of our eternal nature. And so now our journey through Jerusalem's not that big a deal. Well, I wouldn't want to inconvenience you. I mean, that is amazing. I love it. That is so amazing. How much of your life are you afraid of things? You're afraid of this, you're afraid of that. And finally, when you boil it all down, it's like fear of death. And hopefully Jesus ended all that for us when in the resurrection, he showed us that we are eternal. That, the body will come, the body will go. You can even raise up the same body if you like it. You don't have to reincarnate to a different one. You can do whatever you want because it's your dream. And you can bring it into alignment with reality. The reality is you're eternal. You're perfect. You're whole. You're complete. You are healed. You are light. I did a whole hour-and-a-half teaching yesterday on the internet with some amazing Course in Miracles people. It was all about light. All about being light. We sing the song, I Am Light. After that session, they played that song. And we all went to light. And that's my daily experience. And you can absolutely live in that light, as that light. It's your choice. It's your choice to be resurrected here and now. That's our journey. Our journey is through New Jerusalem, through our own healing and resurrection. If we want healing and resurrection, we're going to have to cleanse the temple of our consciousness. The first thing Jesus did when he came into Jerusalem was cleanse the temple. He had to do it because symbolically that's what we have to do. We have to do that in our own life. Clean up our thinking, clean up our negative thinking, clean up our bodies, clean up our relationships, everything. Consciously living, mindfully living, speaking, acting each moment. Let's clean it up. I tell myself that sometimes. Clean it up, Tony. Clean it up. It's true. And cleaning up the temple is a lot of fun, actually. And it feels good. Clean up your body temple. Clean up your physical environment, your relationships. Make sure they're all loving and clean relationships. Even if it's not working out so well, at least make sure it's honest and clean. Make sure you're true to your own highest good. If we want healing and resurrection for ourselves, we're going to have to clean the temple of our consciousness. We'll have to allow for a complete shift of our thought system. It's called evolution. You can't get away from it. You can't get out of it. You're evolving. We're evolving as a species. We're evolving to higher consciousness. The more I resist, the more fearful and the more angry I'm going to become. The more I accept, the happier and healthier I will be every moment. So it's a journey from separate being to Christ. And this transformation isn't going to happen overnight or even in 1 week. But the journey is the same for all of us. The journey is exactly the same. Our journey is not a physical journey to the city of Jerusalem, but it's a spiritual city, New Jerusalem. It's spoken of in Revelations. Many people don't want to read Revelations because it's so symbolic and it has so much negative connotations to it. But if you look at it as just the undoing of your thought system now, the healing, the 7 plagues are actually the cleansing of the 7 chakras. You're all blocked in your energies all the time from thinking you're an ego and living in negativity. But when you're free, when you're released from that, what happens? All your chakras begin rotating and vibrating in sequence in the same direction. I've looked at some people's chakras and half of them are going in one direction and the other half are going the other direction. What happens? There's 7 of them. The one in the middle gets stuck. You're not going anywhere, right? That's your power center. Thank you, Scott. Where's your power? Nowhere. It's stuck. You're not able to express the light in you. You're giving your power away. And so you're going to be going in 2 directions at the same time, which is actually going nowhere. And I never liked that. Whenever you feel bored, whenever you feel stuck, whenever you feel depressed, that's what's happening. Your power center is blocked by your own energy. And you can clean that up. Now, when you clean it up, what's going to happen? Something amazing is going to happen. And this is the vision of John. When he started having this energy alignment with Source, feeling the Christ within himself, something happened to him. And he says in Revelations, "Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth have passed away." What I thought this was changed in my perception of it. What I thought heaven was changed in my perception of it. It's no longer a place. This is no longer a place. And heaven's no longer another place. They came together. And this is how he saw it coming together. "I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also there was no more sea," no more illusion. The sea represents the illusion that I'm looking at. "Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, 'Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, is with women, is with humankind.'" The tabernacle, the temple, the holy temple is you, is with you as a human being. This is the tabernacle. It's you. It's not a fancy, I love those fancy buildings, those huge temples and the wonderful synagogues and the, what did we go to in Europe? Cathedrals. They're gigantic. Those are all wonderful, but that's not the tabernacle of God. You are. And then we just go, what's he talking about? Like, yes, you are much more magnificent than any of that and all of that put together. The tabernacle of God is with you, is with human beings. And he will dwell with them and they shall be his people. And God himself will be with them and be their God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death, no more sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. This is our journey to our own resurrection. The former things have passed away. It's no longer experienced as pain and suffering, but just moments of growth, moments of exposing who we are. That's why that song is so brilliant. I love that song. All of it's just mud for the lotus. All of it's fertilizer for the garden. It's wonderful. And you know, it doesn't necessarily feel wonderful sometimes in those moments. But you can know when it's not feeling so great that there's a big lesson there. There's a huge lesson waiting for you. Look for the lesson. What has this come to teach me? And I always use my friend Jerry. He's down in Florida right now, but he went through this thing of lung cancer. He doesn't mind me talking about it. And he had a lot of things going on with his body. And we would meet once a week and then once a month. And we would just look at, what is the lesson? What does this come to teach you? And I said, if you learn what it's come to teach you, this will be healed. And guess what? It was healed. And I went, oh my God, it works. I'm always surprised. I always have a little bit of trepidation when I tell somebody this, because they could come back to me and say, my doctor just said I'm going to die in 2 weeks. I would still say the same thing. I'm sorry, but I am convinced through lots of experience that our natural rhythm of life is one of healing and wholeness. Healing and wholeness is what we should be focusing on this week. Resurrection of our consciousness. I love the fact that people are healed. Not just physically, but the idea that when your consciousness is cleansed, when the tabernacle or the temple is cleansed, then the healing of the body follows. It's so amazing to me. And it keeps happening all the time. So the former things have passed away. Our former way of thinking, our limited thinking, our judgment, the pride of the ego, the attack and defense, and the subsequent trauma caused by all that. It's passing away from us. We don't need it anymore. Our addiction to violence and oppression and war, the whole thought system of the human species has to be completely undone. That will be perceived as painful for some. For others, it will be perceived as joyful. A joyful lesson that I am learning so that I can be healed. And you know what? I've seen it more often than I can tell you that it works. That divine law works. It always works. All the people we were praying for this week were healed, by the way. I have to, just for the Thursday night group, it's amazing. It's just, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all of it. Another time I was just a quick story about prosperity and abundance. Because I know some of us are a little stuck around that issue. I had a friend who was a little bit stuck around that issue, and his business wasn't doing so good. He says, I'm going to be taking this prosperity class, and I'm a little afraid because they're going to ask us to tithe 10% of my income. And our income's not really even making it right now for all of our bills. My business isn't doing so well. And I said, just do it. It will change your life. And then afterwards I said, what did I say? What did I tell this guy? Like, give him 10%. Well, I don't have enough now. That's okay. Just do it. It will change your life. Well, okay. He went to the class. He started tithing 10% of his income. A couple months later, he called me back and said his business was doing great. He went to this convention for all the people involved in the larger corporation, and they had this big raffle or award. And Lo and behold, he won the darn thing. It was a $40,000 Tesla. He said, I traded it in for the money. I took the cash, and it solved all of my financial problems. Well, that wasn't all that solved his problems. What solved his problem was changing his mind about where he was in the flow of abundance and prosperity. He changed his mind and said, I'm abundant. Here's 10% of whatever I have to the source of my spiritual food, the source of my spiritual nourishment. Bam. And it's always a surprise. Sometimes it's not a surprise. Sometimes it's just your income increases. Sometimes something else happens in your life that brings about an abundant and prosperous attitude. The love of your family. Somebody in your family is healed. Something changes big in your life. Why? Because now you're open to it. You're not holding on. You don't have the lack consciousness. There's enough for everyone all the time. And you're living in the abundance of the universe. There's always more than I can possibly take in and experience. That's why I want to give it to you. Because there's more. There's way too much for me alone to experience by myself, or me and Lily by ourselves. We want you to experience it too. That's the law of abundance. The more you give, the more you receive. Why? You have more room to receive. You have more room in your heart. You have more room in your bank account. You have more room in your life for more prosperity and abundance. I love it. I try it all the time. When I'm feeling like, I really got to get a handle on my finances, double my giving. Literally. Double it. 20%, 30%. Doesn't matter. Double it. Triple it. Give more. See what happens. Edwin Gaines used to say, do you want to play big or do you want to play small? When somebody asks, do I have to tithe 10%? She'd say, no, you can tithe more. Do you want to give big? Do you want to play big or do you want to play small? How much do you want to receive? Well, I'm happy just the way I am. Sorry, the universe is moving. It's growing. You can't stay still. You cannot protect that ego any longer. Jesus was not willing to protect his ego when he went into Jerusalem. He turned over the tables. He declared himself as God. He healed everyone in his path. What happened? The world still, for the most part, did not accept it. Don't let that stop you. This is your moment. This is your moment to climb up through the veil of separation, to climb up through all the boundaries of thought that you've placed between you and your abundance and your happiness and your recognition that you are the Christ. This is your time to climb out of whatever situation you have been in. Just reach for the hand of your brother or your sister next to you. Reach for the hand of your way shower Jesus. Reach for the hand of the Master Buddha. Reach for any holy thought that you can hold on to. And let yourself climb out of this into New Jerusalem and be resurrected. I love you. Amen.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.